Now, this Fort Hood case raises many questions. Among them, how should red flags be spotted, and how should federal bosses or coworkers handle a situation where someone exhibits unusual behavior? I'm joined now by an expert on questions like those. John Mahoney is a federal sector labor and employment lawyer with the firm Tully, Rinckey. And John, great to see you. Thanks so much for being here tonight.
Thank you, Beverly.
Your firm has reported literally a flood of calls about this issue since what happened at Fort Hood happened. What are people asking you?
Well, federal managers and supervisors are asking what can they do to avoid this type of tragedy in the future. And they're wondering if they take action based potentially on a threat, will they face discipline or potential discrimination complaints from overreacting to potential threats?
You wrote an article called Fitness for Duty, and it talks about fitness for duty exams. When can an exam be asked for or ordered? What's the criteria?
Well, if a federal employer or a manager reasonably believes that one of its employees is displaying unusual behavior or misconduct on the job, if that employee is covered by medical standards, like for instance in the case of a law enforcement official or a uniformed member of the services, or potentially an intelligence official in the civilian world, then the agency can require that employee to submit to both a physical and a psychological fitness for duty examination.
I was just about to ask if there were different exams, whether it was a physical issue or a mental issue. I mean, if you're physically unfit for duty, that's probably readily apparent. But I would think in a case of a possible mental problem, that might not be so clear-cut.
It can cause problems for sure, and it's very important that a federal agency focuses on the person's actual behavior as opposed to just rumors or just feelings that the person may have a disability without clear-cut evidence.
You mentioned the danger in overreacting, and in your article you talk about a lot of discrimination cases find their basis in fit for duty exams. So is there any way to find a way to be able to do it without overreaching, so to speak?
Sure. As I mentioned, if the person's position is covered by medical standards, an agency can require that the employee submit to a fitness for duty exam if they display misconduct that could be caused by a medical or a psychological condition. If the person is not covered by medical standards, the agency can still request that the employee submit to a medical exam if there's a potential threat that the person could face discipline based upon their misconduct.
Is it risky for a manager to call for an exam?
It is, and like I said, they have to really focus on actual misconduct or actual behavior as opposed to, stereotypes of potential disability discrimination. So they do have to focus on the actual misconduct when they decide whether to force an employee to take a fitness for duty exam.
And there are lots of stories coming out post the Fort Hood situation about things other people saw or heard or witnessed. If you're an employee in a situation right now, or you're a manager in a situation right now, and you've got questions about some kind of behavior that you've witnessed, you mentioned focusing on the behavior, what do you do?
Well, number one, you need to talk to your supervisor. If you've actually witnessed some behavior that's questionable in terms of misconduct, go to your supervisor and tell that person. Ultimately, a federal agency has the duty to provide a safe workplace and a safe place for members of the public to be. So if there's actual evidence of a real threat, then the agency must take action to protect its employees and members of the public from that threat. And so it needs to be taken very seriously. We've seen what happened at Fort Hood 2 weeks ago, and we don't want that tragedy to occur ever again.
All right, this is a fascinating topic. Thank you so much for coming in and providing some advice to a lot of the federal managers who watch this show.
Thank you, Beverly.
John Mahoney, thank you so much.